You don't remember who you were, but your birth does. The month you arrived in this world is not just a date on paper. It's a fingerprint, a fragment, a frequency echoing from another life. Before this body, before this name, you walked under different skies, spoke in a tongue you no longer recognize, loved people you'll never meet again. And somehow, that story, the one written in another time, left a residue. Right here, in your month of birth. Let's open the calendar and see what your soul left behind. If you were born in January, your soul remembers the weight of leadership. Not noise, not popularity, but gravity. In past lives, you weren't on the battlefield. You were above it, strategizing, balancing peace with power, never fully at rest. Many who enter this world in January once stood behind marble columns, beneath banners no longer flying, deciding the fate of thousands with a whisper, not a war cry. This is the path of the sovereign soul, not hungry for control, but assigned to it. Command was not ambition. It was responsibility. You may notice it now. People look to you without knowing why. You carry an aura of knowing, even when you're still searching. You struggle with rest, not because you're restless, but because peace feels like a task undone. That's not anxiety. It's echo. So if you've always felt older than your years, if silence feels like home, and solitude feels like a strategy, you may be remembering the throne you once left behind. Not all royalty wears gold. Some carry the crown in their spine. If you were born in February, your soul carries the imprint of lives lived behind the veil. You weren't in the center. You were on the edge, watching, listening, whispering truth no one was ready to hear. In other lifetimes, you may have walked barefoot through temples few remembered, speaking languages only the stars could decode. You were the one who disappeared for days and returned with knowledge no one taught you. Not every healer lays hands. Some heal with presence, some heal by leaving. The world never quite knew what to do with you, and maybe it still doesn't. You may feel misread, as if people love the idea of you, but never reach the real. That's not rejection. That's residue. You weren't meant to be loud. You were designed to remember what others forgot. February births come with a whispering soul, one that dreams wide, loves deep, and walks between. You're not lost. You're tuned to signals most people never hear. If you were born in March, you carry a soul forged in conflict not of violence, but of purpose. You've stood in armor that wasn't made of metal. You've sworn oaths beneath moons no longer visible. In your past lives, you may have protected gates others couldn't see. You held the line, not for glory, but because no one else would. You've known what it feels like to fight without recognition, to defend what's sacred, even when it cost you everything. March souls are guardians. Their silence says more than commands. Their rage is sacred and always directed inward first. Even now, you might struggle to rest when something feels off in the room. It's not anxiety. It's alertness. It's the memory of being the last one standing. You may be drawn to justice without knowing why, or feel deep sadness in moments of beauty because you remember what it took to protect that beauty once. Your soul is not soft. It's tempered. Born in March, you weren't made to avoid the flame. You were made to carry it. If you were born in April, your soul doesn't wait for doors to open. It kicks them down. In past lives, you were the first to climb the mountain. The one who crossed the unknown sea without a map, only instinct. Your spirit remembers motion, rebellion, the rush of stepping where no one else had the courage to go. April births don't ask for permission. They remember lives of ignition of revolutions sparked by a single glance, a single word, a single refusal to obey. You may not know why standing still feels like suffocation, why every routine makes you want to scream. That's not restlessness, that's recall. Your energy is not chaos. It's the echo of lives where you started things others tried to finish. You may carry battle scars you never earned in this life, dreams that feel like déjà vu with adrenaline. The truth, you've walked into the fire before, not because you had to, but because someone had to. And this time, you're still carrying that torch. If you were born in May, your soul remembers sound. Not just music, but the geometry of beauty, the shape of emotion. You were once the one who sang to kings or wrote songs that outlived empires, a poet in a burning city, a dancer whose movements healed grief. In past lives, you practiced alchemy, but not always with potions, sometimes with color, sometimes with words, sometimes with silence. May souls don't just feel things, they translate the invisible. You may find yourself lost in beauty, or devastated by it, because you're not reacting to the moment, you're remembering the echo. Your connection to the sensual is not indulgence, it's ancestral. And even now, you may carry a hunger for something you can't name, something soft, something true, something old. Your art is not decoration. It's memory trying to take form again. And every time you sing, write, create, you're not inventing, you're returning. If you were born in June, your soul has held pens older than language. You were the one who documented, the one who watched from the edge of the crowd, not to judge, but to preserve. In past lives, you've been a scribe in sacred halls, an archivist of kings, a translator of voices long gone. Your gift was never noise, it was clarity. Even now, you may feel the urge to write things down without knowing why, to capture moments others forget. That's not a habit, that's inheritance. You remember what others overlook. You feel what others dismiss. You speak less because your mind never stops recording. People may come to you for advice, not realizing you're pulling from 1,000 lives worth of observation. June souls are walking libraries, not just of knowledge, but of emotion. You carry records etched in silence, and sometimes you remember things you never lived. That's not confusion. It's your timeline bleeding through. You're not a storyteller. You're the story's guardian. If you were born in July, your soul remembers what it means to hold others together. In past lives, you weren't the loudest in the room, but when you left, everything fell apart. You've been the matriarch of forgotten villages, the spiritual spine of a broken generation, the one who kept the fire lit when everyone else froze. Your strength isn't seen in motion, it's felt in stillness. You've carried grief that wasn't yours because no one else knew how to hold it. And even now, you might feel emotions arrive before explanations do. That's not hypersensitivity. It's heritage. You were the hearth, the shelter, the place where wounded souls came to rest. And you may still attract the lost, the fractured, the ones who see in your silence a permission to fall apart safely. But here's the truth you may still be learning. You're not responsible for fixing everyone, only for remembering what it means to feel when the world forgets. Your softness isn't weakness, it's memory made human. If you were born in August, your soul has known the weight of a crown and the silence of exile. You've ruled before, not always with a scepter, but with presence. In past lives, you were followed, feared, worshipped, and betrayed. August souls carry the memory of power and the ache that comes when it's taken. You've walked through golden halls and through ash, both in the same lifetime. This is why you crave control, not for ego, but for safety, and why you fear failure, not because of pride, but because you remember what it cost. People may see confidence in you, but what they miss is the discipline you carry beneath it, the restraint, the scars, the private wars no one applauded. You were built to lead, but not for applause. You were built to endure storms that others couldn't even name. And now, your challenge isn't to reclaim the throne, but to remember. The crown was never on your head. It was in your spine. If you were born in September, your soul remembers the architecture of truth, not the loud kind, not the kind that shouts from stages, but the sacred kind etched in stone, hidden in symbols, passed in silence. In past lives, you walked among scrolls, deciphered forgotten alphabets, memorized stars like they were instructions. You've lived as monk, mathematician, magus, not for status, for structure. You understand systems because your soul has built them. You feel safe in order because chaos nearly broke you in another time. You may have been punished once for knowing too much, or for asking the question that undid the illusion. Even now, you may chase perfection not to impress, but to remember something that almost made sense. You see the flaw in the design because you remember a time when you helped draw it, and sometimes when you're alone, you still feel the urge to light a candle, open a book, and study something no one else understands. That's not weird. That's ritual. You weren't born to memorize. You were born to remember what others forgot how to read. If you were born in October, your soul has moved crowds before it learned to move limbs. In past lives, you stood before cities in tension and spoke the words no one else dared. Not always loud, but always clear. You've lived as diplomat, instigator, seductress, sage. The role changed. The power didn't. October souls are made of persuasion, not manipulation, but magnetism. You carry a frequency that doesn't ask for attention. It takes it. People follow you without knowing why. They project onto you. They fear you. They love you. Sometimes all in the same breath. You may notice how often you're misunderstood because people don't see you. They feel what they want from you. That's the burden of the voice. You've once ignited revolutions with a whisper, signed treaties with a single glance, and now you still feel the pulse of performance beneath your skin. You speak not to impress, but to shift something. And when you're silent, the room doesn't calm, it listens harder. If you were born in November, your soul remembers what lies between the worlds. You've walked in places without names, held truths that broke people open, felt things no one else in the room could explain. In past lives, you were the outcast that others feared until they needed you. You lived in caves, on mountains, in silence, not because you were hiding, but because you were listening. November souls are not dark. They are deep. You've danced with death not in fear, but in reverence. You've been the one called in crisis, the one who knew what to do when no one else could even breathe. This is why your presence can feel intense. People sense the shadow in you, but don't realize that it's the very thing that makes you safe. You hold contradiction like an amulet. You heal through confrontation. You love like a storm. Beautiful, cleansing, impossible to ignore. You weren't made for surface-level anything. You dive. And sometimes you drown, but you always return with something worth bringing back. If people say you're too much, that's because they've never met someone who remembers what they've spent lifetimes trying to forget. If you were born in December, your soul arrived after the fire, after the war, after the lesson. In past lives, you've been the wise one at the edge of town, the oracle whose silence said more than a book, the elder no one wanted until everything collapsed. December souls carry closure in their bones. You've ended things, not with violence, with vision. You may not crave control or conquest, but you crave meaning, because you've seen what happens when purpose is forgotten. You have walked through centuries of belief and still found questions worth asking. You are both seeker and sage, curious as a child, tired as a god. This is why you often feel like an echo in a noisy world. You've lived too much to take things at face value. And you love without holding because you remember what it means to let go. You are not here to rush. You're here to witness, to remind, to complete. And when you speak, it's not from opinion, it's from knowing. Born in December? You're not old. You're final. Not an ending, a horizon. So now you know. 12 months, 12 echoes, 12 memories wearing human faces. And yours was never random. Your birth wasn't an arrival. It was a return. A mark left by a life still unfolding through you. You don't have to remember everything. You just have to pay attention to what never left. Because the past life you're seeking isn't behind you. It's within you, still shaping, still whispering, still waiting to be finished. And when the archives open again, you'll feel it. Until next one, Astral Archives transmission complete.